Hi, my name is Elizabeth. I'm a librarian at the Central Library. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Spark Stories. Tonight we're featuring Julie Fugenschuh, the Executive Director of Project Iowa. This is an organization which helps Iowans find stable and meaningful careers. Julie has also served as a foster mother, helped to found the Urbandale Food Pantry, and has worked in several other organizations in the community, including Good Vibes Movement, the Center for Social Ministry, Dream Team, and the Black Lives Matter movement. This is her Spark Story.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Julie.
I'm honored for the invitation. Looking forward to our conversation.
Can you tell me a little bit about your childhood and your parents and their involvement in the community and how that influenced you?
Sure, because that's where the spark starts, right? At least it did for me. It started from a very early age. I think I don't remember a time that my parents weren't doing something in the community, whether that be at church, housing people. I remember neighbors coming to our door in the middle of the night for help, and my parents giving them what they needed. So it was never questioned. It wasn't anything that I questioned. It's just something that I grew up around. And so you just gave, you just did what you could to help the community. And that just was your job. From a young age, I remember, helping people out or having people there, pitching in when someone needed to move, all of those kinds of things. You just did it because that was the right thing to do. So I was really, really blessed to really, grow up in a family that lived the belief that um, we all need to help each other and that we all have something to contribute. So just like I said, from the very beginning, that's where the spark started. And I think most people know that when you give, you receive. So right, so there's something in it for me because it feels good to do it. So as a family, we did it, and as a young adult, I did it. Yeah, so it was always there and evident. And I think a lot of it had to do with faith as well as a belief. So raised Catholic, but there was a great faith in God, and that is what was conveyed to me from a very young age.
So, did you grow up in Des Moines?
I did. I grew up on the east side of Des Moines. I attended St. Joseph's Catholic School, and then I went to Dowling, and then I went to St. Mary's in Winona, Minnesota. So I had a lot of Catholic education along the road. Uh-huh.
Okay, so in your undergraduate degree, I understand you studied elementary education and psychology.
I
Um, what was your goal when you chose that as your major?
well, I think that I don't know that I ever wanted to be a teacher, but I knew education was important. And psychology really interests me as well. I think I saw myself really helping uh, parents who had children that maybe had disabilities navigate through there. My first love was Down syndrome. I did a lot of volunteering in high school um, for, it used to be called Association for Retarded Citizens. It's not called that anymore. But I did a lot of volunteering, and that was my first love. And so I think I thought I was going to do something with that, but it was about helping people make decisions um, that all people have value and that they can survive and thrive in community. So I kind of thought I was going to do that. Then I started having children. So my number one job became being a mother. And then when they were older, it was time to go back into the workforce. And I thought, oh, well, let's look at education. You have a degree. Let's see if that's something that fits with what you want to do in helping people. And so I got back into I had my children in Seattle. We moved back to Des Moines to raise the kids, and um, all of them. My youngest was in preschool, and so I got back in education. I thought, oh, do I want to do this? Is this something that this is this my spark? Is this where I'm supposed to go? And so I was a TA, a teacher assistant to start with, just to kind of see if I wanted to go back in and do that. And I did it for Head Start. That's where I got my first job. And I decided really quickly that that probably wasn't the box I fit into really well was education. It was just it wasn't for me. But there was a piece of Head Start that interested me, and that was the family advocate position. So it was working with families and helping them achieve goals and aspirations. And the intent was to move out of poverty.
Okay. So can you tell me more? You stuck with that for 10 years, I think, at the Head Start program with the Des Moines Public Schools.
I think I was probably there a little bit longer even. And I loved it, you know, because I loved meeting the families. I really liked family involvement because I see that we're more than just an individual. So I really was excited by that. And so my role, I moved from a TA to a family advocate, and then I oversaw some of the family advocates. And I loved working with families. I loved helping them set goals. I loved them being engaged in their children's education because I think that's key to making a difference. And I think educators and parents should be in a relationship. So I got to help do all of that. And it was really exciting. And I loved the people I met. Some of the most resourceful and intelligent people that I know were the parents of the Head Start kids that I met. And so I did that for quite a while. I had an incident that really struck me and really was my aha moment to move me to where I am today. And that was when I had, so I was there like 10 to maybe closer to 15 years. So I was there a while. I had a grandparent come in and say, "Oh, Julie, I want you to meet my grandson. Look, he's coming to Head Start too." And I was like, "What? Aren't we?" The whole intent of Head Start is to give kids a hand up in education and to provide for them because they live at a poverty level, and we know education is key. And the goal as a family advocate was to move those people out of poverty, right? To help them set goals, to get jobs. And we were seeing generations. I saw generations of people return, and I was like, "Oh, I don't think this is working like it's supposed to." And so I decided to make a shift.
Okay, so this was a turning point for you, and
how
you approached.
Moment. This was
Yeah.
my
You decided to make some changes in how you worked in the community. What did you decide to do?
Well, all my efforts before this had been really focused on individuals. You know, so really helping the individual parent that I was working with to get a job to hopefully move out of poverty. I did some foster parent. I became a foster parent because I wanted to help kids or provide for kids a safe home and place to land. So everything was really focused on the individual. At the same time, I decided to go back and get my master. Well, I think the events went together because I decided to go back and get my master's in social work, something I'd always wanted to do. And so I wanted to go back and really focus on macro because all of a sudden it became really clear to me, hey, this is about a systemic thing that is broken, right? We can help individuals, and we always should help individuals and continue to work with individuals to attain whatever they need to attain to live healthy and full lives. However, there's also another level we need to attack. No, okay, let's not say attack, that we need to work to collaborate with on, and that's the systemic. It's like systems that we have put in place that keep individuals performing or acting in a certain way. So I really started to move my thinkings to more of a system or community level approach versus individual.
Okay, so you're working on your master's program, and you are also simultaneously working on a program in Des Moines called Making Connections. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that program was? I understand that there was 7 sites across the nation chosen by the Annie E. Casey Foundation, and this was a huge investment, $500 million put into this program. Can you tell me what you did with Making Connections and what a difference that made in our community?
That was huge. I mean, just alignment of everything happening at once, me going back to get my master's, recognizing the systemic change I wanted to make, and then being offered the job as the director for Making Connections for the last 4 years, right? So they were here for 10 years to invest. And what they really wanted to do is invest in community. And they knew healthy kids come from healthy families that live in healthy neighborhoods and have healthy communities. So it was really looking at that bigger approach of how we change things. We need all of those levels to make things better for individuals. One of the wonderful things that Annie E. Casey and the Making Connections initiative allowed me was to really get out there and experiment with how you can make changes in community, right? So their approach is you have to try new things in order to find new solutions, right? We can't keep doing the same thing over and over again because it hasn't worked. So we need to look for new things. So it was really a blessing to work in that atmosphere. There were so many talented individuals from all over the world, or all over the United States, looking at how we can make communities better. How can we improve communities? And one of the things that was a big another big aha for me was it's not necessarily money. You know, people think you can throw money at problems, and I don't believe that. I think we have to be in relationship, and we have to build relationships, and we have to cross bridges and talk to one another. And so there was a lot of lessons learned around that, and how to invest in communities to allow them to make changes that they know will improve what they're doing. So that I really got to learn a lot through that, and really look at through the community lens, and really allowing people in positions, in circumstances, make their own solutions, right? Instead of somebody stepping in and making solutions for them.
Okay, so once you had your master's degree, you started working with a new initiative in Des Moines called Project Iowa, and that's who you're working with today as the executive director. Can you tell me how Project Iowa started and what it does for the city of Des Moines?
Absolutely. So Making Connections, and actually that's when I came into contact with AMOS, a Mid-Iowa Organizing Strategy. And they're really based around grassroots efforts, right? So they go out and talk to people and say, what are the issues that keep you up at night? What are problems for you in your community? And they don't just go talk to one or two people. They are a member institution. They have about 35, maybe 40 now, institutions here in the Metro and Story County area. And they're congregations, they're nonprofits, they're just organizations of people. And so they ask their constituents, what keeps you up at night? And they have conversations across kitchen tables, across Zoom now, not really kitchen tables. And then they have the people take action on what rises to the top, right? So it's a really grassroots effort. So what happened when I was managing Making Connections and it was coming to a close, at the same time, Amos was holding house meetings, and they asked what was the barrier to the American dream. And what came out loud and strong and clear was the barrier was a livable wage job with the benefits that they could survive on. Not anything that's shouldn't be afforded to anyone, right? It was not any big, huge thing. They just wanted a livable wage job, one job that they could take care of their family on. They wanted stability because that was, and this was around 2007, 2008. So then we hit the big economic downturn in 2008. So Project Iowa was started by that. That's what we started on grassroots efforts on people through Amos who believed that everyone deserves the right to a livable wage job, that there are employers out there seeking people to work for them. So they created Project Iowa to be that bridge between the under and unemployed and those seeking livable wage. So we were created with Amos. I've been with Project Iowa since we started in 2010. And it was built for the community, by the community, with partnership from the city, the state, and business partners, that wanted to see this happen.
So is Project Iowa, is it a Des Moines focused or like Polk County focused, or is it a statewide effort?
Well, COVID has done some great things for us. So we were Polk County only. We ventured into Story County a couple of times. All of our classes were face-to-face and very relational in nature, as is Amos and their philosophy. But now we're Zoom. We're in Zoom City. So we've been able to offer it to people across the state of Iowa. Yeah, now we're open to anyone in Iowa that can get on Zoom.
And can you tell me a success story from Project Iowa of someone starting out and then maybe not being able to find a good job and now getting a good job with a livable wage and benefits?
Yeah, so we have many. Cliff is one that we feature a lot. Cliff came to us he probably has been out now 5 years. And so I'll give you one that, so you can see that he's been sustained. He had been working at Boomers, which was a cafeteria in Des Moines that closed down during the recession. He had been in food service, doing $12 an hour jobs. He was in his 50s. He had come out of drug and alcohol addiction, quite a few years of that, some time in prison. And he came to us thinking he couldn't, get anything other than a low wage job. He went through our program. He, at that time we were doing some welding, and the welding wasn't his gig because of his age and eyesight. So he went over to the manufacturing side, did that, and he has been gainfully employed at Bridgestone for 5+ years. Now making in the $20 range, $40,000 to $50,000 a year, stable, loves his life, and loves who he's become. Just recently, we had a graduation where someone hadn't been in the workforce for a long time, stay-at-home mom, watching kids, came through and, didn't think they had value or worth, right? And so we really do a lot of work about a mindset over a skill set. So Project Iowa believes that every person has value, can add value to our community, and can do that through employment. And so, helping her discover again that she had developed tons of skills of being a stay-at-home mom, could get out there and sell herself, was super nervous about going to the interview, right? So we have allies that work with them on interviews and coaching and like I said, some of our curriculums on self-esteem and really believing in yourself. And she went to the interview, nailed the interview. They told her they'd call her back in like 3 days or something, and they called her back in 30 minutes and offered her the job. So, it's really, we have a great curriculum, and I have fabulous facilitators, but it's really about opening doors for people to see who they are and really discover themselves.
So yeah, I feel like at the library, we meet a lot of people who might benefit from services like that. They come in, they're filling out job applications on our computers here. They maybe aren't skilled at using a computer. And so I feel like the level of obstacles that they have to overcome just to apply for jobs is so huge. So I think it's a noble goal. Is it possible to give people classes and not have them go back to college, but then somehow transform them into people who can get jobs without like a huge amount of 4-year education or anything like that? How you can accomplish that? What does that program look like? Is it several months, or like how does it work for people?
Well, it's really holistic, and that's what really makes us stand out in the world of workforce. Right now, currently it's 8 weeks long, 4 times a week for an hour and a half on Zoom. We were 2 hours. We cut it back because we know how that can be painful on Zoom. But we're really about relationships and building people up. So we have a curriculum that we've developed. It's called Path to Purpose. It's about emotional intelligence. It's about value, because the number one thing that we see, and I'm sure this is what you see too when people walk into the library, is you see people that don't feel worthy. They have no hope. And they think, they've been defeated because they haven't got a job. They've been told by people they're not qualified. So how many negatives can you take before you start believing it? So what we do right away, and we noticed this 10 years ago. So as we developed this curriculum, we really took this to heart. And so we work very, very diligently to remove all labels from people. Because that, if you come with a label that someone gave you, you're going to live in that mindset, right? I'm not smart. I don't have a college education. I, haven't worked in 10 years. I have a charge. I'm an alcoholic, whatever. Throw those away. Nope. You're Julie, you're Elizabeth, you're whoever, and you have value and worth. So helping people reestablish that is key to what we do. And then we do some digital skills because, as you just said, you can't get a job today. The new world of work is you don't fill out an application and take it somewhere. You are online doing it. So we do some around that, a resume, cover letter. We do job seekers, which is how to get a job. Now, most people know how to get a job because everybody that's in there has already had a job, right? At some point in time, usually. But how to keep it and then how to grow in it, right? So those are some really key things. And so finding your value and the value you add to that job, and if it aligns with your values, can make it much more rewarding than if you just think you're going for a paycheck, right? So we really do a lot of work around that. And then the last class that we've added a couple of years ago, which is just key to keeping people employed, is called wellness. So we do a lot around wellness, health and wellness, because what we know is 80% of doctors' visits are stress induced. Well, where does your stress come from? Most people will probably say work, right? Or, and then it floods over to home. So we really do a lot of work around mindset and then tools and techniques that you can keep your stress down so you can keep your job as well. So we say once Project Iowa, always Project Iowa. So they come to us and we have our course is 8 weeks. However, our outcome is that you have a job, right? So sometimes it happens in that 8 weeks and sometimes we're working after that 8 weeks. So we'll stay with you until you find employment. We have another example of a young man that came through our program a few years ago, has been employed at Vermeer successfully for like 3 years now, and just was feeling out of whack, was just feeling like he wasn't on track. He wanted an advancement. He didn't know if he was going to advance in the job that he's at, and just feeling a little bit not aligned. It came back through. We talked about how we can get an advancement. We talked about investments. So we want to be a part of people's lives ongoing. And you can come back as many times as you want.
And what's the intake process like? Do you take people who just call you up, or do you have to have a referral from a different organization in the community?
Yeah, so you can get enrolled online, www.projectiowa, and Iowa spelled out, .org. We start every 3 months. So we just started on Monday, November 16th, and we'll be starting mid-February again in training. So no, the only requirements are that you have a high school diploma, and that is really due to manufacturers wanting, or not manufacturing, employers, because we work with all kinds of employers, and that you're legal to work in the United States. Those are the only two requirements. So we've had people as young as 17 and as old as 80. So we do the gambit, yeah. And we don't have income qualifications at this point in time. So anybody can come. And so we're getting people, and it's the beautiful thing about this is we get people from all walks of life, right? So I have people that have maybe have a college education. I have people that just maybe moved to the country. I have people that maybe just got out of prison. I have people that maybe just got out of a rehab facility, some that are homeless, and they're all in the room together. And they're learning from one another. And they're really, to me, we're building bridges, right? So it's so much more important than just the job at the end of it. But people are getting to know each other for who they are and not what label somebody put on them. So it's the transformation and the relationship building that occurs in these cohorts is phenomenal, because we go in with preconceived ideas of what a drug addict looks like, or somebody that's homeless must be, just not doing. And you sit and have a conversation and you're like, oh, they're like me. And that can transform the world. And that's really what we need right now, right? So I'm really proud of the work that we do around that. I think that's at a macro level that well, it's at an individual level. But I also think that we can change things as we build community like that. That is what's going to move the systemic change upward.
Okay, so let's go on a bit of a higher level here and talk about your larger vision for the community and what the problems are in Des Moines right now and who should be fixing them. Is it the government's job? Is it nonprofit organizations, or can individuals fix it? Or is it a combination of all of those? What is the vision you're working towards with your work at Project Iowa and also in your volunteer activities after work?
Yeah. What are the problems? Let's go to the solutions. So, because I think right now we could say the problems are many. We're really divided. It's a really tense time in our community and many other communities. I think myself personally, and Project Iowa's philosophy is that through relationship, we can change these things. I think that, as I just described before, I think people are too polarized, and that by not meeting people unlike ourselves, that's going to keep us in a polarized state, right? So I think it's really beneficial anytime you can get involved in an organization or a group that has people that look different than you, that think different than you. I've seen some research on cognitive diversity and what that brings to an organization. So it's really easy to not pad, but it's really easy to have your circle be people that think like you, right? That look like you, that think like you, that agree with you, and that doesn't help us grow. That does not cross boundaries. It doesn't help us become less polarized. So I really think that the work is about bringing different communities together and seeing how we're alike more than we are different. So I see that a lot through a lot of the work that I've been doing. So some of the struggles and such have been, me even personally trying to align my differences, right? So I alluded to that I was raised Catholic, have been a Catholic for 57 years. And the Black Lives Matter movement, because I have children who are Black and brown. I was really, really polarized because I didn't see a lot of action around Black Lives Matter. And so I've been like seeking and searching people out who think differently, who see things differently, who can help me build and grow my mindset to encompass more people, right? Not to push more people away. And so I really think that that's our answer, is that we have to look for more common ground than our differences. And so I do that actively. My spark to the community is I really love building things that are for people. I love being a part of new endeavors that make our community better. And so I get involved on boards. I work with the Dream Team, which is very special to me. My dad started it. Good Vibes Movement, who's doing lots of great stuff on 6th Avenue with kids of color and building things and teaching them skills. Center for Social Ministry, who does racial and social justice trainings and poverty simulations. So teaching people, so really reaching out and making sure people understand, and then giving them opportunities to meet one another and share their diversity of thought. And then the key part is the diversity of thought, and then to recognize the commonalities that we all have, right? So then to see that we're all human, we all hurt, we all feel shame, we all feel worry, we all feel happiness, which makes us much more alike than different.
Okay, so let's finish up with a library related question. Are there any books that have maintained your, the work you do, or inspired you, or kept your spark going through all the years?
Well, Elizabeth, you'll be having, I'm in like 3 book clubs. So I love to read. So I had to go back through my Kindle to because I get something out of every book I read. And so that's why I like book clubs, because it also makes me read books I would never read. Right. So, I mean, so it's the same kind of theme, to go outside of the zone and to learn new things. So I did go look up some of my books because I had a lot. One of the books that I felt was like really strong and has had impact on me recently. So I just looked back to some that I read recently is Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. I think she gives a really good explanation of the caste system done by race here in the United States. It's easy reading. It's not very technical, but I just thought she gave a really good, well-rounded view. You'll be happy to know Rules for Radicals, which is Saul Alinsky. And that's what Amos was founded on, right? So some of the grassroots effort. And I just thought it was really a unique perspective as we need to address some systems of injustice and how we can go about doing that. And it's kind of funny in some places, but it was very interesting. And then I loved Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I felt like that was a really strong book for women. So all my daughters have read it. All my friends I have given, but I just felt it was really powerful for women. And I think that we need to continue to live in our power and know our strength. Yeah. And so, yeah, I have one more. I'll tell you one more.
Yeah.
One more from my fun book club. So you have all these different book clubs. I loved the book Women of Troublesome Creek. I thought that was a fabulous book too. So see, I love to read. Yes. And there's so much information and knowledge and diversity of thinking and different ways to look at stuff. So I think it's a great way to also bridge gaps and look for different writers from different countries, different nationalities, because you get great perspectives. So
thank you so much, Julie, for talking with us today. And thank you for the work you're doing for the community.
You're welcome. And thank you for the invitation. It was great speaking with you. And I hope that it may spark some people to get involved in their community and to remember that your actions are really visible to those around you. And so you can influence people and create change in your world by just the act of kindness and meeting people across the table. So thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed hearing Julie Fugenschuh's story and that you'll join us again next month for another episode of Spark Stories.